If you're a diehard Browns fan and love breaking down the game like we do, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell so you never miss a blitz. In the heart of Cleveland, just days before training camp begins, rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders has already begun crafting a legacy that stretches far beyond the football field. It's not his spiral or footwork that has people talking right now. It's his heart. On Wednesday, Sanders made headlines not for what he did with a ball in hand, but for what he did with both hands outstretched toward a hurting community. The Rainbow Terrace apartments in Cleveland were the backdrop of a devastating explosion and fire just weeks ago, leaving 1 dead, 5 injured, and more than 40 displaced. With $3.5 million in damages and 44 units uninhabitable, the pain was fresh, raw, and real. But in stepped Shedeur, not just as a promising quarterback, but as a man stepping into a moment offering presence, empathy, and joy. This wasn't a media stunt. This was a man connecting with a city that needs more than just touchdowns. The event was the Garden Valley Fun Fest, a gathering designed not only to lift spirits, but to symbolize strength. Held in the heart of the Rainbow Terrace community, the fest was full of activities, food trucks, free haircuts, and above all, togetherness. It was about unity in the face of loss. And there, walking amongst them, was Sanders, not behind velvet ropes or guarded by staff, but in the thick of it, shaking hands, playing games, and showing love. He didn't arrive as a savior. He showed up as a neighbor. His presence was more than symbolic, it was healing. Because when tragedy strikes, sometimes it's not just about rebuilding structures. It's about rebuilding spirits. Sanders embraced that role without hesitation. He wasn't watching from afar, he was in the crowd, laughing, sweating, and making memories. For many, it was their first time smiling since the explosion. That's what impact looks like. Even before the event kicked off, Sanders was in full promotional mode, using his own platform to drive support. On Tuesday night, he posted a flyer for the Fun Fest on Instagram, stamped with his personal logo front and center. His caption was a direct call to action. "I need everyone in Cleveland and surrounding areas to come out tomorrow and support the Rainbow Terrace community." In an age where many celebrities and athletes keep charity at a distance, Shedeur put himself right at the epicenter. That wasn't just a post. That was leadership. That was accountability. He didn't just lend his name. He lent his time, his presence, and his heart. And he didn't show up alone. He brought along Browns teammate Mike Hall Jr., a Cleveland native, and the two of them immersed themselves in the moment. Hall connected with his hometown roots, while Sanders became an honorary son of the city. Together, they played football with local kids, not as athletes towering above, but as peers. It was the kind of day where phones stayed up high, not because fans wanted autographs, but because they didn't want to miss a moment. Sanders took countless pictures, and though the spotlight never left him, he made sure it reflected onto the people around him. His Twitch livestream gave fans across the country a chance to tune in, but those who were there in person will never forget the authenticity he showed. This wasn't the Shedeur Sanders that headlines talk about, the quarterback trying to prove himself in the NFL. This was Shedeur, the human, the brother, the friend. He danced with kids, cracked jokes with elders, and ate side by side with families who lost nearly everything. When people think of community engagement, they often think of a check being cut behind the scenes. But Sanders believes in something deeper: connection. He didn't just show up to check a box. He stayed to fill a void. In a brief pause from the music and celebration, Sanders spoke with a few reporters. He was clear and deliberate. Yes, donating money matters. But so does showing up. You can't build trust from behind a screen, he said. And he meant it. Throughout the afternoon, Sanders handed out custom merchandise, toys, and other goods. Not in a condescending way, but with humility and excitement. These weren't giveaways from a pedestal. These were gifts from a peer. His message was simple: I'm here. I care. And I'm staying involved. That approach is rare in professional sports. So often athletes are encouraged to avoid distractions and stay in their lane. But Sanders doesn't see service as a detour. He sees it as part of the journey. And for the residents of Rainbow Terrace, that made all the difference. This was a quarterback leading before the first snap. What's most striking is that Sanders hasn't even taken a professional snap yet. His football journey in Cleveland is only just beginning. Yet his off-field impact is already undeniable. On draft night, he made a promise to be involved in his new home. Since then, he's visited schools, popped into local camps, and trained with area high school athletes. Every action is intentional. Every visit feels personal. He doesn't move like someone obligated to do charity. He moves like someone invested in making a difference. And in a city like Cleveland, where blue-collar pride meets deep-rooted community bonds, that kind of sincerity is recognized instantly. It's one thing to represent a franchise. It's another to represent a people. And Shedeur Sanders is doing both with humility and grace. The fans are taking notice, not just of the player he could be, but the man he already is. Still, we all know what this city craves wins. And that part of the story begins soon. Training camp is right around the corner, and Sanders will finally get to show what he can do with pads on. There will be pressure, expectations, comparisons. But for now, the narrative around him is refreshingly different. He's not just a quarterback with potential. He's a person with purpose. And if his game matches the strength of his character, then Cleveland might have more than a star. They might have a symbol. Football is a brutal business, but moments like this remind us why we care in the first place. Because beyond the contracts and stats, it's about connection. It's about heart. And no matter how this season shakes out, Shedeur has already won something far more important: the trust of the people. The truth is, sports heroes are often crowned for what they do on Sundays. But the greatest ones are remembered for what they did on every other day of the week. Sanders seems to understand that deeply. Maybe it's something he learned from his father Dion, or maybe it's just who he is. Either way, it's clear that he views his role as bigger than just playing quarterback. He sees himself as a steward of hope, especially in times of darkness. Cleveland has seen its share of pain. The explosion at Rainbow Terrace was just the latest chapter in a long story of hardship. But what Sanders offered wasn't pity. It was partnership. He didn't walk in with answers. He showed up with open arms. That's the kind of leadership that resonates. It lasts. It echoes far beyond the football field. And in a city like this, that kind of authenticity is everything. So as the Browns begin their preparations for the upcoming season, there's a quiet storyline building in the background. It's not about stats or scouting reports. It's about character. And Shedeur Sanders is proving he has plenty of it. He didn't have to show up at the Fun Fest. No one would have blamed him if he chose to lay low before training camp. But he made a choice. A powerful one. He chose to stand beside a hurting community. He chose to bring light into a dark situation. And he did it all with joy, humility, and a genuine smile. That's a foundation. That's leadership. And that's how legends begin. The throws will come. The games will be played. But in Cleveland, Shedeur has already thrown his most important pass, right into the hearts of a city ready to embrace him. And if this week is any indication, the city won't let go anytime soon. Enjoying the content so far? Smash that like button and drop your take in the comments. We want to hear what you think about the Browns this season. What if I told you the Cleveland Browns are suddenly facing the most unexpected and jaw-dropping controversy of the entire NFL offseason? Word around the league is swirling like a tornado, and at the center of this storm are two major names. Two starters, two faces of the franchise. Dillon Gabriel and Deshaun Watson, both critical pieces in the Browns' offensive puzzle, are rumored to have been suspended after reportedly testing positive for banned substances. Now I know what you're thinking. This can't be real. But multiple whispers from insiders close to league offices and anonymous team personnel are all hinting at the same thing. Something's brewing in Cleveland, and it smells like scandal. Could it be a mistake, a misunderstanding, or is this the beginning of a full-blown doping saga that could send shockwaves through the NFL? Strap in, because this could change everything for the Browns. Dillon Gabriel, the exciting young quarterback drafted to potentially reshape the Browns' future, was having a stellar camp. Reports say he was zipping passes with precision, showing leadership beyond his years, and quickly becoming a fan favorite. But now suddenly everything's flipped upside down. Sources suggest that his test results came back with traces of performance-enhancing substances banned by the league's strict drug policy. It's important to remember that nothing has been confirmed officially, but insiders say the team has already been notified and preparations are quietly being made behind the scenes. The timing is brutal. Gabriel was expected to get serious reps this preseason, possibly even start early in the regular season, depending on Watson's condition. If this suspension sticks, it not only derails his development, but could throw the entire quarterback depth chart into chaos. Could the Browns be forced to scramble for another backup? And just when you think it couldn't get any crazier, Deshaun Watson's name also enters the mix. That's right. Watson, the high-profile QB with an already controversial past, is allegedly part of this doping storm as well. According to some unverified reports, both he and Gabriel tested positive within days of each other, prompting an immediate investigation. Now, no one from the Browns organization has gone on record yet, and the league hasn't issued any statements. But the rumor mill is on fire, and the potential fallout is massive. If Watson is suspended again, it could spell disaster for Cleveland's already fragile quarterback situation. Let's not forget the Browns are in winnow mode. They've built a roster around Watson's talents, and another suspension, especially one tied to performance enhancers, could make his standing with the team and fans even more precarious than it already is. Some are already speculating that the two might have used the same supplement provider or training facility, possibly unknowingly ingesting a banned substance. Others suggest a much darker theory, that this could be part of a coordinated performance strategy gone wrong. If that's the case, it raises questions not just about the players, but about the entire Browns training staff and how substances are monitored within the organization. League sources say random testing has increased league-wide, and the NFL is dead serious about cracking down on even the slightest infraction. With Watson's history and Gabriel's promise, this becomes more than just a story. It becomes a narrative about trust, responsibility, and image. The Browns, already under a microscope, could now be facing not just suspensions, but reputational damage that lingers well into the season. Fans are understandably shocked. Browns Nation has taken to social media, posting everything from disbelief to outright anger. "Say it ain't so," one fan tweeted. "We finally get a young QB to believe in, and this happens." Others are calling for patience, reminding everyone that these are just rumors for now. But even the mere possibility of two key players being suspended for doping sends waves of panic through the fan base. Preseason is right around the corner, and the idea that the Browns might start the season without either of their top quarterbacks is almost too wild to believe. Yet the smoke is there. And where there's smoke in the NFL, more often than not there's fire. Are we looking at a case of mistaken identity, or is this truly a double dose of disaster for Cleveland? Interestingly, both Gabriel and Watson have been silent. No tweets, no statements, no cryptic Instagram posts, which for NFL players in 2025 is very telling. Usually when something's false, players are quick to jump online and shut it down. The silence here is deafening. Some believe they're simply waiting for legal teams or the NFLPA to advise them, but others think it may be because the results are legit and they're preparing to face the consequences. Either way, the lack of communication only adds to the mystery. What were they allegedly caught with? Are we talking steroid stimulants or something else entirely? The type of substance involved could determine everything, from length of suspension to public perception to contract implications. And let's not forget, Watson's deal is fully guaranteed. That adds a whole new layer to this mess. From a football perspective, the timing is horrendous. Training camp is the most critical time for team chemistry, playbook installation, and mental reps. If Gabriel and Watson are sidelined due to suspension, the Browns lose not just their top two QBs, but the leaders of the offense. That means reps fall to less experienced or less talented backups. Could we see the team bring in a veteran free agent as an emergency measure? Names like Teddy Bridgewater or even Colin Kaepernick, yes, he's still training, are being floated by fans desperate for a solution. And what about head coach Kevin Stefanski? His job was already under pressure after inconsistent seasons. A quarterback controversy mixed with a doping scandal could be the final straw, even if he had no involvement. It's the kind of distraction that can implode a season before it even starts. Behind the scenes, Browns management is said to be in crisis mode. Meetings are reportedly being held late into the night. Legal teams are involved. The NFL's own investigation could take days, maybe weeks, which only makes the situation more stressful. If the league confirms the suspensions, Gabriel could face a short ban, given he's a rookie and possibly a first-time offender. But for Watson, things could get much worse. Depending on the substance and the context, he could be looking at a multi-game, possibly even season-long suspension. That would blow the Browns' Super Bowl window wide open and leave fans wondering if the massive investment in Watson was a colossal mistake. The Browns have gambled big in the last few years, and if this story proves true, it could be the bet that finally breaks the house. There's also the human element to consider. Dillon Gabriel is a young player fresh out of college, stepping into one of the biggest roles in sports. He's under intense pressure. If these reports are accurate, was this a desperate attempt to keep up physically? Was he poorly advised? As for Watson, he's been through scandal before. He knows how much scrutiny he's under. If he knowingly took a banned substance, the questions won't just be about football. They'll be about character, legacy, and accountability. The locker room, too, will feel this. Teammates trust quarterbacks to lead, to be the standard bearers of discipline and preparation. When that trust is broken, it can fracture a team's identity. The Browns were building something this offseason. Now that foundation feels like it's starting to crack. So what happens next? The league will almost certainly be forced to respond. If the rumors are false, we'll see denials and possibly even lawsuits for defamation. But if they're true, we're looking at a suspension announcement within days, possibly hours. And that will set off a domino effect, not just in Cleveland, but across the league. It changes how defenses prepare, how fantasy football owners draft, and how Vegas sets lines. One thing is clear: whether this ends up being the biggest NFL hoax of the year or the beginning of another dark chapter for the Browns, it has everyone talking. Dillon Gabriel and Deshaun Watson caught in a double doping suspension. If it turns out to be true, this will go down as one of the most dramatic off-field sagas in recent football history. Stay tuned. This story is just getting started. Thanks for riding with us on another Browns Blitz. If you liked the video, share it with a fellow fan, hit subscribe, and ring that bell so you're always part of the Dawg Pound conversation. Go Browns!